The life of a revolutionary can get a little lonely at times, which can be nice, but sometimes it's good to be wanted. Rebirth was officially under the control of the Flotsam Ninjas, with a team of them following her with a goal in mind to end the Holy Nation. Vagabond freed the remaining slaves. Only one ex-Rebirth slave joined the Tinfisters, and Mr. Skrull was equipped and sent to live with the Stack Squad. The three main powers of the Holy Nation had officially been removed. She thought that meant the fighting would be done. However, the Flotsam Ninjas informed Vagabond that there were lower-level Inquisitors still reigning over their designated outposts. She had already removed Vita Henley from Rebirth. Now remained Lycus, Cyrim, Cullen, Velio, and Tavos. These were no fat and fumbling foolish nobles from the United Cities. These were highly skilled and highly protected Inquisitors who had been training their whole lives. Vagabond couldn't do this work alone. She and the ninjas would wait in the safety of Rebirth until her team had assembled. Word reached Big Bo and Heft by morning. She ran to the anti-slaver HQ and found a team eager to tag along. Paraslow and Silvershade were sent from the Tinfister headquarters to fight while the others remained behind to defend the base with the anti-slavers. Trevor was found on a drug run, taking a rather unfortunate route up through the middle of Venge. Silvershade stocked up on supplies he may need for the war, and sat in the bar across the room from fellow Tinfister Singh. And Trevor had clearly been hit by some death rays from the sky while being chased by a thralled skeleton. I really truly thought he'd have been okay, but sky death lasers aren't death lasers for no reason. He 100% needed saving. Ludwig! Just a little bit north, Paraslow herded a gigantic group of hungry bandits toward the rendezvous point. That is, until they knocked her down. When she recovered, she continued toward the way station, only to run into a group of dust bandits. Ludwig found Trevor on the verge of death in the middle of Venge, crawling for his crippled life. He had to get him somewhere safer before he could treat him, so when they arrived at the way station, that's exactly what he did. And a whole new squad was born, the Holy Nation Fighters, comprised of Vagabond, Bo, Ludwig, Paraslow, and Silvershade. Earlier, I had decided to make Refla a traveling Tinfister like Trevor since Drifter's Lass was no longer safe. And wouldn't you know, nowhere was safe as she led a team of blood spiders through the swamp. I tried to see if she could make it to Shark for some help, but it did not look good for poor Refla. In the Grey Desert, Ludwig, Silvershade, Paraslow, and some mercenaries they hired were heading toward the next rendezvous point. As I switched to Bo to send her and the anti-slavers, I noticed there was a bit of trouble in Heft, skimmers, and went to get a cinematic shot of Big Bo's team when two of them ran off to fight cannibals. Yeah, there was a cannibal problem too. So, Bo said, fuck it, Heft is compromised, and ran to meet the other fighters. Besides, this little Heft hiver Beak, not to be confused with Beep, everyone's favorite little hive exile, was passionate about fighting off Heft's great enemies. Unfortunately, Refla did not make it through the blood spiders, and I found her being eaten alive. She spent about 4 or 5 days as a Tinfister, I think, and she did nothing but defend them with honor. That was the official end of the Hook Squad. Just outside of Tengu's vault, Bo met up with all the Holy Nation fighters except for Vagabond. She had brought a couple anti-slavers and a rebel captain, and the other 3 had brought their mercenaries. Together, they formed a small Minuteman-like band of freedom fighters. At the same time, Vagabond and her ninja companions ran to meet them. Just outside of Okron's Fist, a small army of Tinfisters, Flotsam ninjas, anti-slavers, rebel farmers, and mercenaries was assembled. It was time to lay waste to the Holy Nation. They waited for the cover of night to fall for a proper guerrilla-style attack. Vagabond led the way as she headed straight for the Inquisitor himself. She grabbed him up out of the bed with ninjas following closely behind in stealth. And that's when all hell broke loose. A battle broke out behind her as she ran away with the Inquisitor Lycus, and the Tinfisters followed close behind. But when the Tinfisters were caught in the crossfire, she had to turn around to protect them. Once she worked alone, but she needed them now more than ever. With the High Inquisitor slung over her shoulder, she beat the daylights out of anyone who opposed her. The Tinfisters had seen combat before, but they never initiated it. Vagabond called upon them to retreat and do away with Lycus. She presented Perislow with Lycus's weapons so that he could not defend himself, and then she removed his armor. When he awoke from his unconscious state, everyone took turns mugging his naked sandy butt. By morning, he was still knocked out but not fully dead yet. Vagabond left the Tinfisters to finish him off while she defended the warriors fighting inside the walls. From one Ochre Knight to the next, she raised hell. And her combat skills were becoming nasty. The Sentinels and Paladins of the Holy Nation were outmatched this time as they exchanged blows with Vagabond's army. But then the Tinfisters who were supposed to be mugging the High Inquisitor came running into the headquarters. Where was Lycus? The battle waged on and I saw his pathetic little butt crawling up through the gate. Not today, you son of a bitch. They had done it. Inquisitor Lycus was done for. The army fought off those few who persisted, and then with the final confirmation that Lycus was truly dead, it was time for the next target. Bo had been badly injured on the way out, so Ludwig was carrying her. The rest of the army remained in Okran's fists, so from here on out, the Tinfisters would be working alone. With everyone so weakened at this point, all future ops would have to be performed very strategically. The Tinfisters were brave, but not tanky berserker warriors. They really only had one thing going for them: Vagabond's stealth and assassination. She searched Bad Teeth again, with no sign of High Inquisitor Tavos anywhere, just paladins and holy citizens. They pushed onward to the southernmost holy military base. They stealthily approached and hid behind a rock, and proceeded to breathe in unison until darkness covered Okran's Gulf, and Vagabond would catch Inquisitor. I could see as she approached there was a fight being had within the walls of the military base. I hoped our mark wasn't in the midst of an ongoing dispute. Vagabond cautiously entered the barracks and found Inquisitor Velio cozy-wozy up in his bed. Not for much longer, she abducted him in his sleep, ran past all the guards, and threw him at the feet of the Tinfisters, only for him to bounce like a super bouncy ball, which I've recently learned is from not having my FPS capped at 60, and clipped through this rock. Luckily, when he regained consciousness, he was just kind of barrel rolling out of the rock. Crisis averted. The only other issue is, we can't attack him if he's playing dead. I don't think this is some crazy exploit I've discovered, but if I just had one of the Tinfisters attempt to steal his shirt, he would catch them in the act and attack. Yes, this would be the strategy that led the Tinfisters to victory as they repeated stealing from and then mugging these Inquisitors to death. Call it the pluck, pilfer, and punch technique. By sunrise, he didn't have much fight left in him. The Tinfisters waited with anticipation for his end to come. It took the entire morning, but finally, he had perished. Vagabond's methods for disposing of whoever she decided was evil had changed dramatically over these few months. The next target was the other holy military base, organized by Inquisitor Cullen. The Holy Nation fighters waited outside the base, breathing in unison once more. Once Vagabond was obscured by dusk, she infiltrated the military base's headquarters. She stood by until the enemy arrived. When Inquisitor Cullen thought he was secure in his bed, she plucked, pilfered, and punched him. Perislow landed the final blow that did him in, and they watched as his life force vanished from his body. Inquisitor Cullen, who looked to be in relation with one of them Twilight Cullens, lay lifeless in the sands. After both military bases were cleared, the squad headed straight for their next victim, Inquisitor Cyrem in Narcos Trap. Getting too close was not an option as acid rain burned the skin of any of my noble fighters. They had to remain on the border of the Iron Valleys and Skimmer's Realm. Once she was hidden by shadow, Vagabond braved the poison precipitation and began the search for Inquisitor Cyrem. She located him in his hibernation station and grabbed his big fat booty and ran. She was illuminated and apparently blinded by an unfortunate lightning strike, causing the guards to spot her. She couldn't expose the location of the other Tin-Fisters, and as such sprinted north to lose her pursuers. The night was enough cover to aid in her escape. And when they lost her trail, she headed for the Holy Nation fighters. They set up this installation of the ass-kicking headquarters just behind some fallen space debris. Siram rose ready to defend his theology, but the Tin-Fisters had had enough of the fighting and were ready to end this. They were so close to the finish line. The sun came up, and they knew they had to get this done and over with before the bozos at the top of the hill spotted them, or better yet, one of the Reavers next door at Okron's shield. After taking extreme amounts of damage to his stomach, Inquisitor Siram was officially dead, leaving only one more mark before this whole thing was over. The team stealthily approached Bad Teeth with hopes that Inquisitor Tavos would be there. He had truly disappeared. So the team waited outside of Bad Teeth, hidden in the cliffs, while I did some searching and found his hiding location to be deep within the game files in the Forgotten Construction set. This is the second time this happened to this save, and importing is not an option, otherwise Tin-Fist could lose his stick of justice forever. As such, Tavos was back in the game, albeit a little challenged in the ways of common household items. Vagabond plucked him, pilfered him, and the whole team punched him relentlessly. Resurrected from the Forgotten Construction set, only to be murdered within minutes. It had to be over now, right? Right? Not quite. As they ran through Holy Nation territory, the team found that all remaining Holy Nation militias had assembled at a lost library. This was not the end. Not yet. But Vagabond was no longer working alone, and this was a problem created by, and specifically for, her and the Tin-Fisters, and they would accomplish what they set out to do.